Hi Joe, how are you doing?
Hi, Simon. I'm doing well. And yourself?
Perfect. Um, I I think I have a little bit of a red face, right? Or is it just the light? But I'm totally fine, totally healthy and very productive in the home office.
Perfect.
So it's the November webcast, the English November webcast. And I think we can start, right?
Yep.
So for all of you who do not listen or who listen for the first time, we may introduce ourselves in a few sentences. My name is Simon. I'm working at Billing Radar since a little bit more than 3 years or 3.5 years in the customer success team. And with me today is Joe.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joe. I've been with the company nearly a year now. I'm in charge of business development, so developing our markets, finding new customers, understanding where the fit is as well with our customers.
And what we are looking at today are, as always, three main agenda points. We have our Billing Radar indicators. We look at a comparison of different countries, mainly Europe and US and Europe and Great Britain. And as always, we have a third category, a third agenda point with a detailed look on two categories in Germany. I would say let's start with the Billing Radar indicators and maybe a few words what we are doing, what we are providing to our customers, and on what our analysis is based on. What you see here is an example of an office lead for Berlin, which includes several variables about this upcoming or about this construction project. And all this information you see as an example here, we're able to aggregate, of course, and we do this in our monthly webcast and present you the numbers, the aggregated numbers in the following slides. So please correct me if I miss any crucial point. I think it's the 14th or 15th webcast, and it's always difficult to yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, it's been quite a few webcasts, so we never know what's new. We don't want to say the same thing as he pointed out. What he was showing before was an example of a lead. Building Radar is a lead generation software for people in the construction space and, of course, construction companies to help them find projects at the earlier stage possible. It is the data that we use to actually power all of the insights that we'll be now showing. This is an example of a lead that we generate. So as you could see, it was talking about when it's happening, what it is, where it is, and of course the contact companies as well that you would want to reach out to. We go to the next slide. So starting with the analysis.
Exactly.
Yep, close.
Let's go ahead.
So as always, starting, we look at Europe as a whole, understanding where are we since the low in March, April, around there. As we can see, we've bounced back 102%, thankfully, and we see it being a more stable trend. We see some highs and lows, and we do see it on a downtrend now. We see it kind of reflecting as well how the general atmosphere is towards Corona. As we see now, Europe is kind of slipping back in terms of infection rates and total number of infected. So we see that hanging quite together.
Exactly, and we see something similar for the DACH region, so for Germany, Austria and Switzerland and Liechtenstein combined. We again see this sharp drop in activity since calendar week 7 until this lowest point here in, you said it like end of April or mid of April, beginning of April, until today. We increased or the activity increased for 144% since this lowest point. These are total numbers. We're also looking at relative numbers. We have our Billing Radar index for Germany, and yeah, at the moment with 1st of November, we are even with calendar week 7. So we are already since, what is it, like 2 months, 4 months, like since four 4.5 months, we are around this pre-crisis level. So I would say we left this V development, this sharp decrease in the activity behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And also looking a bit beyond the numbers as well as what is driving these numbers too. I mean, if we think of Corona in the beginning, no one really knew what was going on. And now we have, working rules. We understand what can happen. The governments have set forth of when is a construction site allowed to go forward and when does it have to stop. And construction being the, necessary business that it is. And as in the States, as we call it, it's an emergency business. So it's an essential business, so it can't shut down. We don't see those numbers dropping again as we have clear rules and guidelines for the space already. So ruling what is going on and how the work is done.
I would be pretty interesting to come back to this later when we look at the numbers for the US. Maybe we can talk about what you just said, and would be also pretty interesting for me to understand better from a local, right? And
yeah.
although you're based in Munich now, right?
Yes.
And Joe, you have any questions regarding these slides? Are there any questions from our listeners? We should also mention this, that of course you can ask us questions. Yeah, no questions so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So with this slide, we always like to compare it to the DAX, which is a general indicator not only of course it's the stock market, but then of course of consumer and spending confidence in our space. As we can see here, they are relatively similar. Net new construction projects and the DAX, as people are more confident, they are investing more, and we see that not only in the DAX but also in construction projects. So people are feeling okay in investing in new projects, putting money into new construction projects. And later on in this as well, we'll see where are they putting that money and what industries are winners and what aren't doing so well as well.
Yeah. Okay, totally correct. So we see this drop in the DAX and in the building radar index here at the beginning, and since 4.5 months roundabout, we see a more or less stable development in both indices.
What'll be interesting to see is in the future what this new BioNTech Pfizer drug, as we've seen that stimulate stock markets really around the world, how that's going to have an impact on the construction as well. We see that similar boost maybe.
I'm not quite sure about the time span, what we can expect, how long it will take to that we will see such a vaccine in place, but I guess not before March, April next year, right? Somewhere in the summer. I'm not even quite sure if there are some forecasts regarding this.
That's fair.
However, we have an indicator that there might be a vaccine which would relax the economic situation, also the health situation, which is reason enough, I think, for us to look forward looking bright into the future. We're still at the building radar indicator, just another slightly different kind of visualization here. The time span is a little bit longer. So we start in June 2019 until today. And what you see with the red line is a moving average. So this moving average with a window of 4 legs, we more clearly see this V development in our data. So at this point, looking back to June, from June 2019 until today, I would say our knowledge about the past, what we see regarding the activity in early stage information in a construction sector in Germany is clearly, or was clearly, a V development, right? So there is this sharp decrease and this sharp increase. There's no hanging around at the lower point. We did also not see this this second sharp decrease. We're stable at more or less this pre-crisis level. So as you said, we do not exactly know what to expect for 2021, but for 2020, I think we can state already that Corona led to a redevelopment in construction activity in Germany. And this is a for us, for analyzing our data, is a magnificent point.
Absolutely, yeah. We see it, as we'll see in the numbers coming up. Where has this money gone? Because the money is still there, but it's just in different places. And how is it being spent?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's spent, we will look at different categories later. So these are activity over all construction sectors we observe. So, for example, infrastructure, construction projects, or office space, etc. But before going into detail with the categories, we will have a look at a new kind of visualization for Germany. What we will see, clicking on this link, is the early stage information visualized for Germany by postal code areas, and in a second visualization by cities. Austin, can you see my my window with the map of Germany? Yep. Perfect. So let me explain what we see. This is construction activity measured by our building radar data from May 2020 until October 2020, so full 6 months. And the deep purple areas are the areas with the highest degree of construction industry. If you know Germany and the geographic and economic etc. situation where most people live, etc., you know that this is das Ruhrgebiet. I'm not quite sure how it's called in English, but we have a lot of cities, Dortmund, Essen, Duisburg, etc. We also see this high number in the Munich area, not so much in the surroundings, but surely in the city here, with the postal codes beginning with an 8. Yeah, and all kind of other postal code areas. So what would you say, what's most interesting for our customers or potential customers using our data, knowing that we are able to looking at these different postal codes area in such detail?
Absolutely. So what we hear a lot is, especially from international clients as well, or clients that have a more than just German focus, is resource planning. Where do I put what resources, where and when? And you can really justify it by saying this is where the action is happening. So if we take a look at, if you were to go all the way to the right to the high density areas, we would then see it would make sense to put them in these areas. Right now, maybe we're looking at a little too specifically, but you'll start to see where are those hotspots of development. Where should I be putting my people and resources to discover the projects, so that every cent that I spend in development and business development is going to be paid back as quickly as possible and as high as possible.
Exactly. We will definitely see more of these kind of visualizations in the future. So far we have this by postal code area, and as mentioned, we have a second one by cities. The picture looks a little bit different, however, not less interesting, I would say. And while I'm sliding over this bar, yeah, for example, like this, we do not see a development, or not the development, but the status quo for the postal code areas, but directly see where the hotspots are, right? So this would be Berlin region. We have the Hamburg region in the north, again, Ruhrgebiet in North Rhine-Westphalia. This is a pretty interesting region for the German market. This is the triangular of Dresden, Halle, and Leipzig. We have the Munich area. This would be Nuremberg, Essen, Fürth. So Franken, and of course here the region of Frankfurt, Duisburg, not Duisburg, Frankfurt, Mainz, Wiesbaden, etc. And again, data for of 6 months. We will surely look about we'll look into the past, into 2019, if we see any significant differences. But for the moment, Joe, I think this is also again pretty interesting for planning.
Yeah.
So, do we have any questions on these visualizations? So please again feel free to answer to question to tell us your questions. But I see no questions so far. So I would say we'll continue with the next slide, which will be a switch to the categories as mentioned before. So far
Absolutely.
we looked at, sorry, please.
Yeah. So as we said before, we start looking at the specific industries and how are they reacting in terms of, you know, coming back, how they were during Corona, and then where are they now. So when we look at Germany in 2020, we can of course see that dip early on when we're looking at between, you know, March and May, and we've seen them come back now. What's been very interesting is industrials very quick rise and really increase to pre-Corona times. We see a lot of investment coming in. Sorry, we see a lot of investment coming in now, just due to the fact of cheap money being made available and a lot of programs to help development be picked up off the ground, being provided by governments as well. Residential we've seen come up as well as more people are working from home, and so people are really considering, where is my home and what is the right home? So people are starting to develop there. But an obvious, you know, laggard in all of this is office, which has really been hit hard, and we'll see that in many different areas as well, where they are still lagging behind the rest. Simon, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, exactly. This is, I think this is the, and we mentioned it in the German webcast a few minutes ago. Is pretty significant. All of the sectors decrease, as you mentioned it, due to Corona, but only the industrial sector and the residential sector, according to our numbers, increased back to a pre-crisis level. Let's say hospitality, which I would be a little bit suspicious about that, but it's still behind or still under the pre-crisis level. But most significant is this this low level of office activity in the office sector.
Absolutely.
What's also interesting, and we will answer, or we will try to provide an answer on why the activity in the health sector, the green line, is so low. We might see an answer on this looking at a comparison of the international situation, not only looking at Germany. So for the German market, we can say we can state that health sector and office sector are worst off. And yeah, let's see how this looks like in the international comparison. Starting with the hospitality sector, we see more or less an equal on the same development, for sure, for the decrease, also for the increase again. These differences in the development since July 2020 I would call not significant.
That's a fair assessment, yeah. And then looking at residential, you know, residential really came back strong, dipped again, and came back up, and now we're starting to see it slow again. And again, residential is also something very affected by the level of confidence, I'd say you'd call it, in construction. When we talk about residential, we're not talking about single houses. We are talking about multi-unit, 100-unit, larger scale residential developments in, you know, both urban, suburban, all over. And we see this tied very closely with consumer confidence. So as we said before with the ducks, as people are more willing to spend, people are more willing to invest in these sort of constructions as well.
Yeah, exactly. Two important things. First thing is what we did not see here, that there is a major difference between Germany and the rest of the world. We start to see here that Germany and the DACH region developed to a higher, significantly higher point than the rest of the world. But as you said, developed more or less the same after that. This difference in activity in Germany and DACH region, again, DACH region is Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein compared to the rest of the world. This difference increases when looking at the office sector. And if you compare these sectors, there's another point which is, I think, obviously significant, that worldwide the activity in the office sector did not reach the pre-crisis level yet.
Absolutely. We can all understand why it's happening, as people are worried to leave their homes and go back to the offices. Rules are being put in place, but people are still worried about it, and confidence is low. Sort of a note to this as well, especially if you work in the office sector, understanding what markets can I get into that are developing is something that we help with as well, to understand where can one cross-sell their products into. So as the world and every market is really struggling in the office space, we don't know what it will look like post-corona as well, because as new realities are being created, we don't know what's going to be happening going forward. You think of Facebook. Facebook has hired a director of remote work. Google, Salesforce, all the big tech office users are instituting work from home policies until at least mid 2021, and these have been extended and extended and extended. So we don't know what it would look like in the future.
Yeah, interesting. So what we see already is also all four lines are below pre-crisis level. The difference between the activity in world and Germany is, looking at these numbers, more than 25 percentage point. So not only that the whole sector is down worldwide or have not recovered, as you write, it's coming back slowly, but surely not recovered. The situation in Germany is even worse than worldwide. And most significantly, we see differences in the health sector. And I guess this is where speculations start. This is all based on billing radar data. We might spend a few sentences later on our technology, how we get these data, but this is all billing radar data analysis, and we see this huge difference after a few weeks of the first lockdown in Italy. Here in calendar week 7, we see a significant divergence between development activity in world and Europe, and Germany and DACH.
We do see this difference as well. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, and we do see this difference as well when looking at more countries with more developed healthcare, public healthcare initiatives. We do see this lower level of investment because it's just not necessary to do a very high level of investment. And in countries with less developed healthcare, we do see that increase in spending, especially funded from the public side. So if you think of, really Europe, continental Europe, Scandinavia, there we see a lower level of investment. You think anywhere really outside of that, that doesn't have such developed public healthcare, we see a much larger increase. And a lot of our customers have actually seized on this data to open up new markets, especially if they work in the healthcare branch.
Looking back at our new visualizations, these dynamic visualizations, we're of course not only able to do this for Germany, but I imagine show this visualized on a map of Europe or a map of the world would highly be interesting to exactly know where this activity is going on, right?
Absolutely.
Not only for us, for our customers, and yeah, if you're interested in such kind of data, please feel free to contact us. This is going back to the German market. But first of all, let me quickly check if there are any questions. No questions so far. So we saw the development in the international comparison for these sectors. We again have a comparison of the Hochbau and Tiefbau. It's called in German, but it's civil and structural engineering in German, in English. And what we see here is a yeah, maybe you can describe it better.
So vertical and horizontal construction, I said structural versus civil. What is being built above ground and what is being built in terms of infrastructure and sort of low industrial works here. And we do see a divergence. As we can see here, Tiefbau is the light blue, which is the horizontal construction. We see this generally being higher as governments are pouring more money into construction programs, which when governments usually fund them are ending up being roads, highways, infrastructure projects. So we do see that being favored, but we also do see the resurgence in private investment in more, things like residential and office buildings and things like that. And then going on to the next one, just exactly what we're talking about, private and public sectors. We do see that, as we said, we see that spending increase and coming closer together, whereas before there was a difference in the investment level, where we saw private going down and then public then going up. And we can see that reflected here as they both bottomed out at really the beginning of the Corona times.
Yeah, so here the sorry for that, this is still in German here. So public and private. Public sector would be the dark green line, private sector would be the light green line. And both I did before in the German webcast, it was more significant when we had this smaller time span, right? Where we beginning of May we said, okay, this is significantly different. There's a significant difference in the private and the public sector. So we have a lag of a few weeks when private construction activity is still decreased, while the public sector increased already. And now we see that in the beginning there was a different direction, but now we heading to the same direction in these two sectors. So, Joe, if there are no questions from your side, I would continue with the comparison of countries.
Good.
And what we're looking at first is the DACH region, so Deutschland, Österreich, and Schweiz. Sorry again for the translation. Deutschland would be Germany, Österreich is Austria, and Schweiz would be Switzerland. So Switzerland would be the yellow line, Austria is the dark blue line, and Germany the light blue line. With beginning of November, we are on the more or less same level with the activity in Germany and Austria, while we are more or less 20 percentage points away from the other countries in Switzerland. So we are 70 percentage points below pre-crisis level in Switzerland. So recovery there seems to be less intense than in the other two countries. And as always, this is again something maybe also Joe, you describe in your own words in your native language. We do not say that we have a full coverage of the full market. This is all building radar based data we provide to our customers, and always important, I think, to say that we do not how do we put this in English? That
we do not aggregate from multiple different sources. This is our our proprietary information that we have pulled through our platform on these markets.
Exactly. Maybe it's also the right point to say something about our technology, what we're doing. It's all based on natural language processing. So we are able to detect construction activity described in text in English and in German-speaking published sources. So this is why we can also detect information for the US, for example, where we see lately a decrease again.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, I could take this over as it is my home territory. As he pointed out directly, USA and Europe, we do see a dip now. As we mentioned multiple times, we usually see these dips that they're pretty responsive to the general confidence of a country. So as we know, coronavirus is running a bit rampant in the US, and it is getting worse here in Europe. So we do kind of attribute it to that, honestly. And to touch on what Simon was saying about how we do this, building radar is an artificial intelligence platform where we're looking and crawling millions of data sources every day to understand, qualify, and find new projects that are related to construction, be it at any phasing. So very early stage to specific event-based stages. And so what we're looking at here, for the most part, are net new construction projects. So these aren't renovations. These are purely new projects that weren't on the market before.
Exactly, and we also have this for UK.
UK also suffering a bit of confidence there as well, as we see equal drops to the US, where US is about 28%, Great Britain is about 23%, still higher than their lows during the coronavirus at the depth, but again higher, but still suffering. I mean, yes, we will see the construction space suffer as coronavirus gets worse, but it will not return to its let's call it June levels, as governments have rules in place, have working rules. They have been identified as essential industries in every developed country, so they do continue on. I mean, the longest lockdown was Argentina, and that was 5 months. But if you're not doing business in Argentina, and specifically Argentina, then you'll have a country that you are able to work in.
Yeah. Pretty interesting, and it will be pretty interesting to follow how the development looks like in the future, in the next weeks and in the next month. We will update you monthly, but before ending this session, we have a third topic: categories in Germany, as promised, on a detailed look. And for that, this is a slide we looked at before. So we saw that the industrial sector and the residential sector developed. So the residential sector developed above, like 5% above pre-crisis level, but industrial sector even developed 50% above pre-crisis level. So a huge inflow in investment decisions and planning in this section. And again, it's pretty early stage information. There are planning phases inside this data, and how it looks like in detail is this. So what do we do with this? It's long-term analysis, looking back until the year 2018. We see the whole year 2019 up until today. And yeah, so the result is that there is space for much more research, because we do not exactly know where this increase is coming from, because it's not coming from to the best of our knowledge. And again, we're doing this analysis based on machine learning, not coming from factories, a little bit coming from utilities, surely coming from logistics. So we saw, looking at Amazon, for example, we saw there definitely an increase in logistics activity, because there's a high demand. but disposals, for example, the yellow line, are surely not responsible for this sharp increase. And yeah, it's the other industries we will have to look at, and might be that we look at a even more detailed analysis, micro-analysis in 1 month. What's behind this?
Yeah, as a customer, we were talking about it with a customer, and he called it the Tesla effect, where if Tesla's okay building a factory, then other people feel more confident as well building, more industrial stuff in Germany as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm curious how this develops, and I'm also curious how residential develops. Again, we have a huge impact due to the other residential subsectors. We cannot really specify. This is something we would, our customers, when they look into the data on a micro level, they see in a first glance. But now here on this aggregated level, we can say it's not coming from the caring homes. It seems to be not coming from the multi-use buildings. We will have to look into detail what's behind this development. I hope this is not too confusing, Joe.
It's all good.
Perfect. So we're good in time. From my side, I can say thank you very much. We have plenty of time for potential questions. Maybe outlook to December 10th, when our next webcast will happen. Joe, are there any questions from your side or anything you want to look back for today?
No, not from my side. What it would be interesting to look at is, we talked about that industrial trend and those other things. I think for the next one that we take a deeper dive into where is that development coming from?
Yep.
Why are we seeing such an increase, and what is that increase?
That's also my thought, and I might consider always highly possible that we look into, as I mentioned, a map of Europe, a map of the world, where this activity in the health sector actually happens.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. No questions from your side. If you have any questions, please write to me. Have a good day, stay healthy, and see you at the latest in 1 month. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.